Hey, 3M Coney fans, you're in for a really good Coney today. A lot of fun. Russ Heltman from All Bengals SI joined us on the program to discuss Bearcats, Reds, and, of course, the Cincinnati Bengals. We plug them in there. I talk about my potential fantasy nightmare, and we touch base with one of our buddies, Paul, who decided to not watch The Mandalorian step by step. Absolutely insane. I can't believe he did it, but we surprised him with a phone call, and that's in the episode as well. It's a longer one, but I hope you enjoy it. Here's Russ Heltman and myself for the Coney. We are in a really interesting place, Russ and I, in terms of fandom. Both because I think a lot of sports fans, they're fans of other things, and specifically Russ and I are fans of Star Wars. The two things we talk about all the time, Bengals, Star Wars. Every time we dive into politics, though, we get very upset, and we just like to stay away from that. But the Bengals, Star Wars thing, listen, Cincinnati sports is at one spectrum. They're shopping Moustakis and Suarez right now. Bearcats disrespected by the CFP. And, the Bengals, what's going on there. But in the Star Wars universe, Russ, we're flying high. That season finale was awesome, off the chain for the Mandalorian. And this might be, while it's the worst time to be a Cincinnati sports fan, it might be the best time to be a Star Wars fan ever, with them announcing 11 new shows and how good the Mandalorian just was.
Chock full of content, Lucas. What a beautiful ending to season 2 of The Mandalorian. Grogu and company getting the nice happy ending. Although I won't ruin too much more. We'll save the spoilers. But the type of dark road we took in our conversation afterward was a little upsetting and also funny at the same time. We'll have to drop that once the finale gets a little later and people have a chance to digest it. But awesome ending for The Mandalorian. I cannot wait for the Book of Fett next year. Check out the post-credit scene at the end of The Mandalorian season finale. You will not be disappointed. You'll thank me later.
Yeah, I mean, just watch the whole show. My buddy Paul, our buddy Paul, we both went to OU with him. He said, I'm going to watch it, but I don't want to watch it one at a time. I want to binge the show. And I said,
I never get that.
Well, I don't get it because how can you know that content exists and not consume it? I mean, come on. It's
like
Star
if you're
Wars.
Talking to people about pop culture or just interested in pop culture, the most popular Star Wars-esque pop culture thing is going to get ruined for you eventually.
Yeah, it's like saying, when The Force Awakens comes out, it's like, I'll wait till they get through The Rise of Skywalker. I want to binge them. I want to know how it ends. Like, some hard times.
You got
for
to
not
watch
watching.
them week to week.
You got to watch them week to week. What are you doing with The Mandalorian?
I'm on the show. I'm on the show right now. What?
No, you're just on the technology.
No, I did hit record though for fun to see if you'd say anything funny.
Oh.
Wait.
Okay,
I'm on the show? You sound like a bad radio caller, Paul. Like, wait.
It really does. I was so confused. I had no idea what the hell was happening. Okay, yeah. No, I didn't watch it week to week because, I mean, if we're being honest, maybe I just, lost track of days and didn't even realize it was airing it till, week 4. And at that point, I was like, well, I'm just going to ride it out until I can get all 8. And then I can do exactly what I'm doing today, stuck at home, and just watch what would be 6 hours, 7 hours. I know they're less than an hour.
I definitely texted you when the first episode came out. I think that's a lie. I think you told me right away you wanted to binge it. And I think you've been telling me since last year you wanted to binge it. And I told you as they came out, you're stupid. This is great. But now you're getting to watch it. So you're on the first episode?
Yeah, but see, I don't think it's that terrible that I'm doing that. I mean, then I don't have to wait. It was just, I remember last year waiting week to week was just hell on everything, and I was just too excited every week for it, and I hated that I had to wait each time week to week. So I just got used to it with all the streams.
So you hated being excited Monday through Friday. You hated so much thinking about the show.
Impatient. Yeah, I'm impatient. I wanted the next episode.
It's ironic because
I
he's
just got
impatient,
too used to
but
all
he
this
chose the most
Netflix
patient path.
crap.
Yeah, it's ironic because you chose the most patient path.
That's true. That's true. See, because I was like, I can just get it all out at once before it even, like I can just bring it all at the very beginning and wait even longer to then do it all at once. Because when I'm waiting week to week, I'm like, all right, I already had 6 days in between where I don't even know what the hell's going on anymore with the show. Like I don't have a good memory. It just doesn't line up for me. It's just not a good collection of things to have. So I need that that ability to just stream it through. I didn't watch Game of Thrones until 3 months before the last season aired, and I binged the whole thing. And then watching that last season was just the slowest thing in my life.
Anyway, we talk about the Bearcats, Reds, and Bengals today, the height, the lows. Before we get into that, one more little fun topic I want to dive into. If you're listening to this past Monday night, you can find out the outcome of this at 3 a.m. Coney on Twitter. I'll be posting it on there, a little thing today. And because the worst thing that could ever happen to a Cincinnati sports fan is on the table to happen to me. So I have done – I made this podcast because I was so excited about the Cincinnati Bengals season this year. And we don't need to go into, Russ, how horrible this year has been. It has been near the worst-case scenario. The only bright spot was our boy Joe Burrow actually being really good, which we knew it was going to happen. But whatever. We saw it happen. It was confirmed. But his ACL and MCL gets torn, and it's horrible, right? It's awful. However, my fantasy season, I'm 10-3. I've been the commissioner of my league for 8 seasons. Eight seasons. I've paid more attention than anybody else. For 4 of those seasons during college, I would write articles about the league for the league, just as a little practice, write some articles. And it was great. I paid so much attention. I have never won a fantasy football championship in my life. 5 semifinal losses, 3 championship losses, a lot of close calls, a lot of good teams, a lot of bad start sits. Now I'm 10-3, number 1 seed in the league. I'm in the semis. I'm up 49, and my opponent has the Steelers defense and Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, 49 is not comfortable enough for me to say that I've won this game. My opponent's congratulated me. I think he's crazy because if I were him, I'd have a whole lot of hope with the Steelers defense and Juju Smith-Schuster, Russ.
30 burger. That's what you got to worry about.
I'm going to need
defense.
The Bengals offensive line's going to need to be able to tackle. I mean, that's what I'm relying on to win this game.
And block.
Which
they can't do. So
they can give up sacks. They can give up some fumbles and interceptions, but just no touchdowns. I can't have like 3 defensive touchdowns on my plate and Juju just decides that he's going to have his best game of the year because that's all it takes. And the ESPN thing says I've 95% won. Well, Hillary Clinton had a 95% chance to win in 2016. We all saw how that worked out. I'm not going to relax. I'm not going to relax.
Tell the Falcons
that
against Tom Brady.
28-3, 98%. Yeah, where's Atlanta?
17-point lead yesterday.
Where's Atlanta gone after that? How about Vontaze Burfict running into the tunnel? Did we all think we were going to win then? Yeah, I thought so. It felt like 99% at that point, so I'm not going to relax at 95%. I'm not. I'm going to watch this game intensely. I have not talked myself into the fact that I'm going to be in the final. I've refused to. I am nervous about it. We'll dive into that game, though, a little bit later, Russ. But let's talk about the Bearcats. I mean, how screwed 1-10 do you think the Bearcats were by the committee this year? Which side of that are you on? Are you, they'd get blown out anyway? Or are you at the 10, they are so screwed here, they should have been one of the 4 teams in?
I'm more at like a 7 right now because we have the litmus test last year of the 40-point blowout loss against Ohio State on the road. So to me, it's hard to say that UC equivocally has the same level of talent as the 4 teams that are currently in the playoff: Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, and Notre Dame. But we don't know that for sure unless they get a shot. And according to the rules in the playoff, it says a group of 5 team can make it. But Lucas, under these current statutes and with these current committees that they keep rolling out every year from Grapevine, Texas, they will never put a group of 5 team into that 4-team ring.
No. They won't put him, and everybody's talking about it needs to go to 8. It needs to go to 8 so that Cincinnati can be in. It needs to go to 8 so that Cincinnati can be in. Guys, that's a lie. It's a lie right to your face. Because do you know where Cincinnati would have been ranked had this been a 2-team tournament? They'd have been ranked 4th. That's what they would have done. They'd have kept them right on the outside, right on the outside, right on the outside.
They put 3-loss Florida over UC.
Yeah, no, they're insane. It's insane. It's insane. It's blatantly. So the thing about, everybody complained about the computer system for the BCS. We need men in there with eyes to make judgment calls and decisions. Like, that was a good idea. I can't believe I bought into it when it first came out. It was interesting the first couple of times, but a committee of 12 men who are in college football, they are commissioners of these conferences that make direct money from these. It just sets up for a scenario like this, where in a year that every conference is hurting for money, hard hurting for money, very badly hurting for money, you think they're going to let an American Athletic Conference team into their tournament? Hell no. It's not going to happen. So, like, where do we go from here is the question. As people that like UC Bearcats football, as people that like Group of 5 football. You and I both went to a Group of 5 school. Where are we supposed to go? Why would we ever be as interested as we could be in these teams if they are guaranteed 100% never going to have a chance to compete for a national championship?
Cincinnati went undefeated. Notre Dame had a loss. Cincinnati won their conference. Notre Dame did not. Cincinnati had more top 25 wins that the committee ranked than Notre Dame and Texas A&M. More wins against teams above 500 than both of those teams. Better opposing winning percentage than those teams. They were ranked 5th in Bill Connolly's S&P Plus. Notre Dame ranked 9th, A&M 12th. 3rd in SRS ranking. Notre Dame 5th, A&M 29th. And then finally 3rd in the Colley rankings. Notre Dame 5th, A&M 15th. All that courtesy of the Ringer's Roger Sherman. It's just blatantly ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense besides everyone sitting down the little boy and saying, holding their hand and saying, son, this is the way the world works. It's all about money and it's all about power. And that's what this is just blatantly, obviously pointed out. Like, to say if you win your conference championship and you go undefeated, you will get a chance as a Group of 5 team is a lie, is an outright lie. We know what Notre Dame is. For a decade, for 30 years, 25 years, they have been in the BCS college football playoff, New Year's Six bowl games. 0-6, Lucas. 0-6, with a basically 3 touchdown losing margin in every single game. Like, they are not competitive in these games. UC, we haven't seen them in this spot in a decade. We haven't seen them in the spot under Luke Fickell. We know what Notre Dame is under Brian Kelly. We saw that song and dance 2 years ago. They got destroyed by Clemson, just like they got destroyed again when it counted most this past weekend. There's just nothing else more to say. It's all about power. It's all about money. I get it. Those teams are more powerful. They have more talent. On a computer-based system, maybe they win more often than not. But you said, as the committee, that the little guy would get a shot if they meet every prerequisite. The Cincinnati Bearcats did that, as did Coastal Carolina, who is getting left out in all this a little bit, and ultimately should have been in the top 10 firmly and held at much higher regard than some of these 3-loss teams, i.e. Iowa State and Florida.
Yeah, but as did UCF when they were left out too.
Yeah.
If they left that when they left that UCF team out, that for me was it's never going to happen. It's never gonna happen. It's not
like,
in their plans.
Stop pissing on us and calling it rain.
Yeah, no, seriously. You cannot. Let's look at this from a different perspective, though, Russ, because we can beat that it's. Everybody knows it's corrupt. I mean, the NCAA is the most corrupt organization in the history, possibly, of American sports, probably of Americans, actually guaranteed of American sports, possibly in the history of America. There's been a few studies that they've had more scandals, and it's like FIFA. They're horrific organizations. But anyway, outside of that, let's go with the argument of, well, we want the 4 most talented teams to play. Eye test. eye test. I see those teams, I know what they'd be. They'd be favored in Vegas, so they should be in the tournament. And to me, that is so against the nature of sports.
Yep.
That is against the idea of sports.
Tell that to the Jets yesterday.
Right? Tell that to... No, but seriously, it is against what sports is supposed to be. All these numbers, all these analytics have helped us understand sports better. But that doesn't mean we control the outcome of things. That doesn't mean we know what's going to happen. That doesn't mean that it's always going to be one way. You know, if these eye test people wanted to do this, well, then 16 seeds shouldn't play 1 seeds, right?
Yep.
The United States shouldn't play Russia and the Soviet Union in 1980. We don't need to play it. It's not necessary. We know what's going to happen. We know who's going to win. In sports, at its core, is about winning games. That's all it is. Now, how you get there, your yards per play, your points per play, those are numbers that are meant to help us understand why these things happen. They are not numbers designed to determine who your champion should be. That should be won and lost on the field, won and lost on injuries, won and lost on random absences, won and lost on coaches not being there or not being right, won and lost on missed kicks, won and lost on bad punts. That's sports. That's what it's supposed to be. So let's not mealy-mouth, well, if this wouldn't have happened and they're more talented and they'd beat that team. No. Did they or did they not? And if you're going to tell over 80 organizations in your own league that if they win every single game, they will never have a chance of winning the championship, then just kick them out of your league. Stop messing around. Stop giving us hope. Stop rolling out the college football playoff championship trophy to a Miami, Ohio versus Ohio game on a Tuesday night to show everybody in the stadium, hey, by the way, we're never going to let you play for this. We don't care how good you get, how good your recruiting is. We don't care. You're not going to play for it. And that to me is just, it's incomprehensible, and I don't want those two schools that I like, Cincinnati and Ohio in college football, to be a part of it anymore. I'd rather a group of 5 playoff, a group of 5 championship, because at least that is something to play for, to get everybody excited for on a national stage.
And maybe have that team play the national champion or something. Like, at this point, there has to be overarching change, because how are you supposed to recruit against any Power 5 school, let alone the best schools in your own conference, when all you can offer up is, yeah, you could play at Ford Field once a year in December, first weekend in December, and then go to the Dollar General Bowl. Whoop-de-doo. Yay. Awesome. Never have a chance to compete for ultimate glory. And when you think about the fact that the committee says they value wins and all this stuff, no, they don't. They value certain wins. They value certain programs. They value certain histories. And that has been very clear. Like, if anyone was deserving of a shot this year out of the group of 5, it was UC. If anybody has been deserving of a shot in the history of the playoff, it was that, 2017 UCF team. So it's just, it is disappointing that they never got their shot. And to me, like, why is it interesting to see Notre Dame go get destroyed by Alabama? Alabama is unequivocally the best team in the country. They will win the national championship. I have said it from the beginning of August. I'll keep saying it. They have the best defense in the SEC. They just went undefeated in the best conference in the country. They're going to run roughshod over Notre Dame. And then they're going to run roughshod over the winner of Clemson and LSU. Or not Clemson, LSU, Clemson and Ohio State. And it's going to be Alabama once again. What do you know? The dynasty continues. And the same 4 teams continue to run the sport. A sport that has to fix itself to get some parity. Or they don't. Like, honestly, Lucas, they don't care about the little guy. They care about making the money. They care about getting the coffers filled. Like, if they really wanted parity, they would have limited the scholarship amount. They would have done all these little things on the margins that the NCAA and the FBS can do to level the playing field. But they're not going to, because they live on these name brands, and they're going to continue to pipe them up.
Yeah, you know, it would be great for college football. It wouldn't necessarily be great for a lot of the athletes. I know those scholarships are valuable. But what would be great for college football is you have 65 scholarships.
Yep.
65
Caught
scholarships.
by 15.
And then actually what would be great is you have 53 full-time scholarships, and then you have a collection of scholarships that could lead to 65 players, some on part-time scholarships, or you could get up to 60 players of full-time scholarships, something like that. Kind of like ours, the way that baseball and other sports do it. Just so that
you think about the fact that, or sorry to cut you off, Lucas, but if you take, for example, the fourth-string running back on Clemson, and Frank Solich at Ohio University says, hey, you can start and get 300 to 400 carries in your career here. Plus, we have the coaching infrastructure to mold you into an NFL running back. That's a scenario that he might choose over going to Clemson and, yes, getting really good coaching, but never becoming a marquee player on TV or on the national stage. Whereas you could play in Maction on weeknights and get the same kind of fame that Jared Patterson's found at Buffalo.
Yeah, and I would be in support of an 8-team playoff if those teams would actually get in, but that's not what's going to happen. So I'm not in favor of expanding the playoff to 8 just so 4 more Power 5 teams can make it. I'm only interested in 8 if there are legitimate rules, written rules, can never be changed, not on judgment or anything, rules that say an undefeated group of 5 team makes that playoff.
Yeah, like the New Year's Six is right now.
Yeah, then I'll be down. And we're lucky we have that rule for the New Year's Six, or else they try to leave Cincinnati out of that. It'd be Indiana, Florida for a New Year's Six bowl, which I think maybe they made it. I don't know. The college football, there's a bowl game today. I'm not even sure. You told me about
Indiana Ole Miss in the Outback Bowl. I think that's next week, though. Today, I forget what it is. I'm watching the pregame show for it right now. They haven't talked at all about the game, so that'll tell you how important it is on the docket.
Well, the Reds are entering a really important period of their history, I think. And this is an important point that I wanted to make. The Cincinnati Reds at this current moment are in a position very similar to the 2015 Bengals. Now, they didn't have the sustained success leading up to it that those Bengals did. But remember, the Bengals had a really good team. A lot of talent in a lot of places. They liked their construction. They were really effective. And I think the Reds, over 162 games last year, they win 95, 98 games. I think they were really starting to find something there. Then they get into the postseason and they have a horrifically disappointing outcome. We know what happened on January 2016, when we all cried so much that, we were sad for the next 4 years.
Speaking of 95% probabilities.
And then you have the just great team, bad collapse. Same thing happened to the Reds with that 22-inning thing, and I don't want to dive into how horrible that is, but it's the biggest playoff dud in history. And you're presented with an opportunity. You have a choice in this moment. And I think what the Bengals should have done then, and they didn't do, and what the Reds should do now, which they look like they aren't doing, which seems like they're shopping Moustakas and Suarez, is right after that playoff embarrassment, you've got to step up to the plate and you've got to go for it the next year. Don't let the failure define you. Don't let that playoff experience be the last you experience for 4 or 5 years because you're scared you're not good enough now. You've got to be aggressive. Go for it again. That's the only way to wipe those playoff disappointments away. Look what the Dodgers did. Now, I know the Dodgers have a lot more money, but did the Dodgers ever back off, ever reset or rebuild? No, they just kept firing at it. More prospects, get him in here. More free agents, get him in here. Move this around. Oh, he's great. Put him here. Boom, boom, boom. Great philosophy, aggressive all the time. What did the Saints do after the Minneapolis Miracle? Did they lay down? Did they make some changes and sit back and be patient? No, they were aggressive. They looked at the disappointment right in the face and said, we're not going to let this define us. We will be back. And what the 2015 Bengals did is sat back and let that failure define them. For the next 5 years, by the way, it still defines the Cincinnati Bengals, as we'll see tonight on Monday Night Football. It still defines the Cincinnati Bengals, that playoff loss. And what you don't want to happen to the Reds, Russ, is for those 22 scoreless innings to define this team for the next 5 years. That would be the worst-case scenario. But if they're not going to be aggressive this offseason, I feel like that's what's going to happen.
Lucas, I'm afraid COVID set this franchise back 5-7 years. It's very possible because small market, spending more than you have in an entire decade in one off season, and then you get no fan revenue. You get nothing. You don't get any of that wave from the fans in Cincinnati that you expected to see throughout the summer. You get nothing. You get 60 games on TV and then 2 games of scoreless baseball. So, yeah, man, I don't know what else to say. Like they're gonna punt. Nick Kroll said we are quote unquote reallocating resources with the trade of Raisel Iglesias to the LA Angels, but they're just getting ready to ship the rest of their bullpen. They've already non-tendered Archie Bradley, so they've lost their 8th and 9th inning guy. Trevor Bauer's not coming back. I don't see them re-signing him. He's too much money, and it looks like they're trading Sonny Gray, who is arguably the most affordable and best value option of any pitcher
Man,
in
they're
the
broke,
MLB
aren't
this
they?
year.
They're broke.
They're broke.
They're broke. That's
Yep.
and, it's a shame. I get it's COVID and it sucks, and they're just broke. That's probably the reality.
It's hard for
of
me
it.
to criticize them too.
Like,
What are you going to do?
And when I say this philosophy thing, I think that's what you should do. You should find the money. That's the problem, is that they're smart guys, they're rich guys, they care about their money. But I think that anybody right now that's contracting doesn't see what's about to happen. We are about to have this is going to be like the 1920s. So think about it. You had the Spanish flu pandemic. People were wearing masks at football games. The same stuff that's happening now, the arguments, the masks don't work, the chaos, society, bad economy, that was happening during the Spanish flu, right? And the Spanish flu was worse than this, but we're more scientifically aware now, so it almost affects our lives more because we kind of understand what's going on. Back then, we were like, oh, my God, people are dying left and right, and we don't really know how to take care of them, and our hospitals aren't great. So it's a little less intense, but also more intense because we're more aware of it, right? In the 1920s, Russ, what was that called? The Roaring Twenties. Biggest party decade ever. And it was built on a bad economy, by the way, evidence of the Great Depression, right? People spent on frivolous things, and I really think we're headed for that type of scenario where it's almost an artificial boost in everybody's lives. Just because if 2021 is a normal year for you, like an average year in your life, compared to this year, it's going to be amazing. Amazing. So I think what the Reds ownership should really realize is that they're sitting on what's going to be the most expansive, exciting decade for entertainment in the history of America. You're going to have big, giant music festivals. Sports are going to go off the chain. It is going to be amazing. And we don't see it right now, but it's happening. So punting on your team and then being bad for what might be the most exciting period in event entertainment in history because people have been stuck inside for a whole year sounds like a dumb plan that's going to lose you money in the long run. But again, I get it. They might not have the cash on hand. They might have really stretched their coffers thin. They might have no choice. I'm not going to tell a billionaire what to do. But if it were my money, I'd take out some credit lines and I'd start paying these guys, and I'd try to build a real winner for the 20s, which I think is going to be a massive decade in human history.
Well, the question is, Lucas, is there going to be a Major League Baseball season next year? Are they going to get this deal done? Are there going to be fans in the stand all summer? We don't know that.
That's true.
Know that. So I don't fault them at all. It's hard for me to criticize anything they're doing here. Like you and I were excited this time last year, December. This Moustakas coming in. They're bringing in the big guns. They're filling out the lineup. It got Trevor Bauer on the coffers, but then everybody's lives changed. So it's just they couldn't have seen this coming. Nobody could have seen this coming. And they're not the Yankees. Like they can't just create money out of thin air. Like they went all in. And if you don't feel like you can win a World Series this year, then I say you punt because you're already looking at a bullpen, not a bullpen, a farm system that's been depleted because of the moves you made over the past 2 years. The last thing you want to do is go for it again, fall short in a season that is going to be hit with lower revenue again. And then you have nothing in the farm system, and you only have 1 or 2 years left with aging guys that you added in previous offseasons. So I kind of get what they're going with here, but you don't like to hear it as a fan. You hate to hear it.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't make certain moves, and wouldn't necessarily pay Trevor Bauer. I'm not saying that you go crazy, but you can't. I just hope that it's not a full punt. Do you know what I mean? There's different. I don't want what happened with the Bruce Votto Reds. That was a full punt. Like, can we do a little short because there's good young talent on this team, you know? Hopefully it can be a quicker turnaround or a sharper turnaround, a little more, and then so that you're really good in 2023 or 2024. That's the hope, but I get it. I understand. That was just my philosophy on it. I want to hear this about the game tonight, the Monday Night Football game, which, listen, if it's Monday or if it's Tuesday and you're listening to this, just stick around, see if we're right. What type of game gets Zach Taylor fired at the end of the season, Russ? Because it seems like it's going to take a lot to get Mike Brown to move on this. It's going to take some national media pressure, although Mike doesn't really care about that, but whatever. It's going to take just pressure and doneness, right? It has to basically slap Mike Brown in the face that this guy's kind of an idiot. And what type of game would that be on Monday night against Pittsburgh for him to see that?
It'd be it would probably be the nail in a lot of fans' hopes for Zach Taylor being on his way out of this franchise. If he beats the Steelers, he will definitely be back next season. Like, Lucas, they haven't beat the Steelers at home since my mom and I, on a whim back in 2013, when I got home from a day at high school, a crappy Monday at high school, she's like, hey, we're going to go down and scalp some tickets to the Steeler game. A couple touchdowns from A.J. Green later, right in our corner. They pull off the upset, and fans have not felt that jubilation since. Like, this team has dominated the Bengals. Haven't won overall since November 1st, 2015. If he is able to pull off this upset as a 14-point home underdog, of which only 5 of the 11 teams over the past decade have even covered the spread, let alone win, then he will be back with this team. Which, I mean, kind of
but Russ,
justifiably if he puts together that game plan.
Nobody wants to hear that. I mean, it depends on how they win. I guess there's a theoretical world where I get really impressed by tonight, and, I'll be okay with, I guess, Joe like Zach Taylor, bring him back, sure. Whatever. But what game gets him fired? That's what we really want. Like, what would I have to sit through tonight to get this man fired?
10 sacks, 40 points.
It's on the table.
It seriously would take that.
10 sacks.
Did I mention the Finley stat at the top of the show?
10 sacks is possible. Yeah.
1 in 4 dropbacks.
Well, he ain't going to make it. Listen, if the Pittsburgh Steelers hit Ryan Finley 10 times, he ain't walking out of the stadium. Guys, this is a real problem. Like, it is going to be a rough night. It should be. If it's not, it's frankly a miracle. The Steelers are coming off back-to-back losses. This is the Steelers' bath mat. When their feet get a little wet in the shower, they step out on us and rub. And they make sure they're nice and dry before they go and take on the day. That's what the Cincinnati Bengals have been to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I saw the game earlier this year with Joe Burrow at quarterback. I don't think Zach Taylor has any plans of changing that. Okay? So the fact that now the Steelers, they're so ticked off. The national media wants to rank them outside of the top 10 of some of their power rankings. They think that they're going to go out in the wild card round, that the Browns are going to take over the division from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, all of this stuff is on the table now. All of this stuff is theoretical and possible. This is real pressure for the Steelers. And you think they're going to come in and lay down in Cincinnati? No. This has 45-7 written all over it. And 7 would be, frankly, a miracle. I think we're going to get shut out tonight. I don't think the Cincinnati Bengals are going to score a point because Ryan Finley's the quarterback and Zach Taylor's the guy calling the plays.
I think they've averaged, one offensive touchdown per game?
Yeah.
Without Joe Burrow? Nice, healthy 1 score per offense each Sunday out. It's that bad right now. And the funny thing is, after last week's game, Lucas, since the Bengals game against the Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger and Brandon Allen have been the exact same quarterbacks efficiency-wise. So that was a little bit of an interesting nugget. Except the Bengals don't get Brandon Allen out there this week. They get Ryan Finley. who is the only quarterback within 50 points of Kendall Hinton's quarterback DVOA number, according to Football Outsiders this season. Kendall Hinton, if people forget, was the practice squad wide receiver that had to start due to COVID protocols for the Denver Broncos this past couple weeks ago. So 40 to nothing is on the table. It is legitimately on the table. If they do not have the drop issues that have plagued them this year, Deontay Johnson in particular, he has 12 drops on the season, most as any player in the league.
What about
4 more than any other player? Yeah,
Russ,
go ahead.
what about if it's not 10 sacks? What about if it's 35 to nothing? It was 28-0 early, and it's the worst body language game you've ever seen from an NFL team. Does that get Zach Taylor fired?
I think it could. Like, they're not going to win another game. Are they going to go on the road for Zach's first road win next week against Houston?
No way. No
you
way.
wouldn't think so, but
you know what?
This
is bad coaching. When you look at a schedule and think you have no chance, no chance. And guys, this roster is not as bad as people want to make it out to be. Zach Taylor has so butchered every player on this roster, every one, right? Like the fact
look at Carlos Dunlap,
look at Geno Atkins. I don't care, shoulder, whatever. Get some production out of guys. That's what good coaches do. Good coaches don't mess up talent. Good coaches make guys that aren't that talented look all right. Good coaches make you feel like you have an opportunity at the start of every game if this things can happen, right? It feels like to win any game, everything has to go the Cincinnati Bengals way. They have to have a lead. It has to be a big lead. They have to be secure. They're going to have to win the tournament. Like, everything must always go right. And it's the sign of a bad coach team. That's what it is. So this bad luck thing, 3 fumbles here. How horrible luck. How can you blame a guy for bad luck? You can blame coaches for bad luck. You know why? Because you put yourself in positions to experience luck. And if you are constantly putting yourself in positions to be at the mercy of luck, it will start to screw you over and over and over and over and over again. You know why the Patriots seem to have better luck? Because they're more prepared and in a better position to make sure that luck favors them. Luck is not necessarily luck. Yes, it's the bounce of the ball, but it's all about positioning and preparation and, football coaching and preparedness. Like, it's obvious stuff, and if it happens time and time again, it's bad coaching. And, I was way more optimistic than I should have been at the beginning of the season, Russ.
Well, last Sunday was a perfect example, Lucas. 3 straight fumbles to open a drive. Hadn't been done since the Patriots in 2013. Guess what? The Patriots won that game, 34-31, in overtime against the Denver Broncos because of their foundational fortitude, the ability for Bill Belichick to instill the belief, instill the will to win into his team. Zach Taylor, people are like, the apologists go, you can't defend it, or you can't blame him for the fumbles. They lead the league in fumbles on the season. They're top 5 in fumbles given away. Like, over the course of a 16-game season, when the issues continuously keep popping up, when you have no road wins in 2 years, when you have 4 total wins overall, it just speaks for itself. There is nowhere but further down on this path, and we're going to start to see more of that this Monday night. Although, fun little stat to watch, people. The Bengals need just 3 fourth-down conversions to set the all-time record for a single season, eclipsing 20 done by the 1996 Chicago Bears. I wrote about that this week, trying to find any kind of silver lining we can in this season.
When you're writing about a nugget, you know where it's at. How about this quote from Zach Taylor? That may be hard for people to believe given our track record of wins and losses, but there will be unbelievable days ahead, and I'll remember these days. I think a lot of people will forget them when we're playing for championships and playing for division titles. And here's the difference. Matt Nagy's not a popular guy in Chicago, but he's 40 times the football coach this guy is. Because Matt Nagy, when things went wrong in Chicago, he wasn't like, don't worry, guys, it'll all be better one day. You just got to keep hoping and playing. No, he stepped up and said, this has got to get fixed. These are fixable issues. These are serious issues, and people are going to lose their job because this is serious. That's how you have to be as a football coach, right? As a fan, this is not our livelihood. We don't make money with this, right? It's just emotion, and you can bury that and forget it, and it's not that serious. But for these coaches, the fact that it's not that serious to Zach Taylor sometimes bothers me. You know, you need a little fire, little juice. Remember that speech Marvin gave? Average Marvin, NFL average Marvin Lewis, just like NFL average Andy Dalton. Remember that speech Marvin gave after that preseason game, Russ?
Which one?
Oh, he stepped it up. I'm going to find it because we can play it on the episode. But Marvin had that fire, and I want Zach Taylor to have that type of fire, Russ. And a lot of times I just don't see it. Your thought on that while I look up this video?
To me, I don't care about that. It's about development. It's about X's and O's. It's about what have you done from the beginning of September to the end of December.
But development requires sometimes a harsh tone, right? It's about understanding people and what makes them tick and how to get along with them and how to develop them.
Well, I think he delegates that to Jim Turner and some of these other guys.
Yeah, he delegates it to a bunch of
tone.
It delegates it to a bunch of, excuse my language, assholes, right? You can't do that. Lou is an a-hole. Jim is an a-hole. Now, they might be good guys to their kids and to their wives, and they might be decent men. But in that locker room, to those players, guaranteed, at least to the reporting, and we've heard it time and time again from other organizations, they are a-holes. Okay? And that's not a great, and Zach's supposed to be the good cop, and I feel like he doesn't reach out to the players enough, and I just don't know. But let's listen to this Marvin Lewis speech because I love this one. Absolutely love this speech.
Listen to me. This is a long-ass season. This is a grind. And you can't give up the ball. You can't miss tackles. You can't step out of bounds. You can't have penalties. You can't field punts on the 1-yard line. Some of you wonder why you don't play and start. Because you won't tackle on an interception. Because you don't know who to block. So you better make up your mind what you're going to do. It's your football team. Find a way to fix it. Reach down inside and be a fucking pro.
You know, it's a really good speech, right? And that Bengals team made the playoffs.
Cut and dry.
Right, and what Marvin does, listen, I've seen Zach yell at guys, but it's the most empty shell of yelling I've ever seen. There's no, actual intensity behind it. It's like he goes, okay, this is the time I'm supposed to be yelling, right?
Well, and what credibility does Zach Taylor bring to that kind of fire if he were to let that come out of himself? Marvin Lewis brings a defensive coordinator winning Super Bowl attitude to that team. He brings 20-plus years of experience in the coaching ranks. He brings so much gravitas to that job. And that's ultimately been the biggest reason for Zach Taylor's failure. His inexperience, no fault of his own, has crumbled him. He has not had the pieces around him in terms of coaching assets to be able to survive in the NFL because he does not have the experience to build those relationships. I told you back in February of last year when he hired his defensive coordinator, the last of anyone in the National Football League, how bad of an omen that was. And that has bared fruit frivolously over the past 18 months. His inexperience has crumbled the Bengals. And I never understood at the time of the hire why they were pitching it as, we're going to grow with Zach Taylor. What? This is the NFL.
This is a coach.
Is one of 32.
Exactly.
This isn't the developmental league. This isn't the AAF.
Yeah, no, they got to move on. And we've been listening to, so many podcasts now. There's a lot of smart people going, listen, he's just not ready for the job. And that's all you and I have been saying. We have not been saying Zach Taylor doesn't know football, right? We haven't been saying that Zach Taylor is a bad guy. We haven't been saying that Zach Taylor is an outright idiot. I don't think I've been saying that. I've been saying
the locker room hasn't fallen on him yet, which is amazing. It's a credit to him right there.
And
to the point
it's
on all the coaches
it's half fall.
Up.
It's like the Brent Spence Bridge at this point. There's been a few fires and nobody's driving on it, okay?
Yeah, and in the NFL, it's tough to tell if guys are playing hard for their coach or just playing for a job, which most of the time it's the latter. But like, regardless of all the infighting and what's happening in the locker room, none of us that aren't employed by the Bengals are going to know what's going on day to day in that room. But we know what's going on in the field. They haven't developed anything. They've developed Jesse Bates, who honestly probably gets to this level with another coaching staff. Like, what have they developed in their time with Zach Taylor as a coach? I can't tell you I can't give you 5 players that they've developed into solid starting players in the National Football League.
Other than they were like the rookies they drafted, but those are just good picks, right?
I mean, Logan Wilson looks like he can be a starter, yes, but he's not some home run rookie of the year pick they made in the 3rd round.
No, but I think that under the right coach, they've made it like it's just the right coach makes Logan Wilson look like a much better draft pick, right? When you make good picks, good coaches. When Pete Carroll made pretty good picks in the 3rd or 4th round, they turned into all pros. Right? Now that's what happens with good coaching, in my opinion. And I just don't think the Bengals are there. I don't think he was ready for the job. I think that's my number one criticism. Maybe he could have been a coach in 10 years, in 15 years, but he was not ready for the job after his experience in Los Angeles with how good of a job he did there, because that's the only bright spot in his resume is being a quarterback coach. He would have been well put and well assigned for an offensive coordinator role. He would have fit in it well. He'd have been able to grow and develop in that role. And, that's almost what I wish would happen.
That's the thing. He's shown decent chops with play calling. It's flashed.
He's shown chops in play design and offense design and understanding what his quarterback is good at. He just needs an adult in the room. I would be in favor of moving Zach Taylor to offensive coordinator and hiring Mike Zimmer as the head coach. I really would be. And tell Zach, listen, do you still want a job? Because ain't nobody hiring you after this. Although I guess Freddie Kitchens has a job now as an offensive coordinator, so I guess they're hiring anybody.
Extensive experience in the league, though.
Zach Taylor is a white guy, so he will get another job. But do you want a real offensive coordinator job and still work with Joe Burrow? But see, the problem with doing that is then if they have success, you have to cut bait. And that's a shame for Zach because that's the type of role he really should be in. And now he's going to have to wait a couple years to get it. And he is never getting another head coaching job in this league after this experience in Cincinnati, whether it goes on next year or not. And that is a mistake on his end. It's like a guy that runs for president too early, Mm-hmm. And then you get demolished and you have 3 embarrassing moments, and guess what? You can't ever run again. Now, I guess with our current president or president-elect, that analogy makes no sense.
He's overcome that one.
He's overcome that one. But Zach Taylor ain't Joe Biden, all right? I mean, it's not, But I
did not think we would be making that comparison today. That is I love that. I love that.
Yeah, well, I've been reading a lot of presidential. I got a JFK book for Christmas. It's a good Christmas, good times, good vibes. Russ, it's been a great show, buddy. 45 minutes, solid content, popped it out. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it, and it's been a blast.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on. Always love doing it. All the Bengals, Cincinnati fans out there, keep your heads up. Joe Burrow, successful surgery, rehabbing well in California. I imagine with his work ethic, he should hopefully, fingers crossed, be taking snaps in week 1 and leading this team to better, greener pastures. It's not all on Zach Taylor as well. You got to hold the front office accountable. They have to look themselves in the mirror. The whole franchise does at this point. And there's a lot of soul searching to do over the next few months as their franchise QB gets healthy. But that's the key important point, Lucas. They got the franchise quarterback. Now it's about keeping him away from that Deshaun Watson path and building those pieces around him. There's not all hope is lost right now. I know it looks bad with the we're talking about 40-7 losses against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it's hopefully the bottom of the barrel, only up from here.
Yep, and what I have to say to the Bengals organization is what Marvin Lewis once said to his team preseason. We need to, as an organization, as a fan base, reach down inside and be a real organization and do things right and do things smart. And that's my plea. All right, that was Russ Heltman. I'm Lucas Moore. This has been the 3 a.m. Coney.